Hey, good morning, everybody, for Monday, the 15th of May. High pressure just sat off to the southwest of us, coming up from the Azores, and has introduced a northerly flow over the country, which gives us a bit of an operational challenge based on the wind strength and direction today, as I'm sure you would have seen by your emails. Cold front went through last night, did bring some rain around 3 to 4 a.m. this morning, but behind it has left a nice clear picture with just the outside chance of shower. But from the looks of it, a reasonably nice day, apart from the wind. Winds at height are generally northerly. You can see here 340 to 350, 20 knots, and that's broadly the same across the country. Satellite picture across the UK is starting to clear from the down towards the southeast. Bits of cloud just appearing over the Morvens and up into Wales. But aside from that, top cover receding and an improving picture. Public forecast today then indicating a top temperature of 15 degrees, northerly wind, good visibility. And yeah, what more could you ask for, really? It's not going to rain particularly much today. And the wind's from a good direction in terms of an air mass point anyway. GFS predicts temperatures today of probably very similar. It would load, yeah, sort of 13, 14 degrees, and dew points are around 6 degrees today. Currently at Lasham, we've got a temperature of 10, dew point of 5. Sounding for today looks like that. So as you can see, it doesn't take too much in the way of heating to get things going, and that's why we can already see some cumulus out there. A bit scuddy though it is. You can see around 800 millibars. So what's that? Around 4,500 feet or so. That there is a bit more cloud, and you can see the top cover that's existing on this sounding. That should warm out, hopefully, the lower level cloud. And as we can see, that cloud that you can see in the top part of the sounding is starting to recede away as the fronts move. Picture outside is that. See a few bits of cumulus, northerly wind, and quite a bit of top cover initially. TAFs today then are broken at 2,500 feet. I think that's pretty pessimistic, if I'm honest. Farnborough showing few clouds at 3,000 feet, and at the moment 340 at 1.3 gusting 2.3. Looking further up country, few at 4,000 feet up into the Cotswolds at Bryce Norton, and again looking fairly northwesterly. So yeah, reasonable cloud bases and northwesterly winds. Okay, let's just compare the two models. Top Meteo, the more optimistic of the two. We're on sort of the corner of some good air, your potential flight distance for today. The arrows indicating that there is a fair amount of wind within this chart. That, of course, does make it a little bit harder for those of you with less performance. And if we start at sort of 10, 11 o'clock, the bridge should be working a little bit. At the South Downs, it's a little bit west in it, but yeah, if you're experienced with that, then shouldn't be an issue. But by 10:30, looking around here, blue to shallow Q up to around 3,000 to 3,500 feet. By lunchtime, very quickly getting blue shallow Q, probably more on the shallow Q variety, up to 4,000 to 4,500 feet above Lasham. And then this afternoon, quite widely, sort of 2, 3 o'clock, it's going to be probably 5,000 to 5,500 feet above sea level, maybe even 6 in isolated spots. Good up into Wales, good up into the Midlands, not so good in East Anglia. So yeah, your main play area is sort of Wales and the Midlands from the looks of it. Isle of Wight is possible in this wind direction as well. So those of you thinking of an exciting overseas crossing. It's 6 o'clock still going, 7 o'clock actually still going. So it's a long soaring day, probably 7 o'clock or so it will start shutting down, but with reasonably high cloud bases. No chance of a sea breeze front in this direction. And your site forecast for today in this area shows moderate to strong thermals up to a usable height of around 5,000 feet or so above Lasham by the end of the day. And you can see freezing level today is sat at around 4,500 feet. So it may be spring, but it will still feel chilly. Let's just compare that to sky sights, which will probably have a different interpretation as it generally does. Let's just have a look. And so that just shows there being a few more gaps in towards the Cotswolds, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But we're still in a good area, and routing up towards the northwest does still seem to be possible if you're careful. We have a look at 11:30. Thermal's a little bit more weak than Top Metier were suggesting, but Wales has already got cooking pretty quickly. And as we get through to 1:30, it's going fairly reasonably across the Midlands and Wales and us, but a fair amount of wind shear in there with thermals. And this is predicting, as we go on, an earlier stop to convection. This showing 6 o'clock, which is probably not too far off. Cloud base amounts a little bit lower, generally 4 to 4,500 feet above Lasham. Maybe 5,000 feet to 6,000 feet QNH in the mountains, but 4,500 feet. More generally, convergence. I'd let you make sense of that. There are some convergence lines sort of running about, probably streeting in some areas. But and ridge lift, well, it doesn't really show it initially, but I can't imagine the downs to be too bad if you know what you're doing, as I said before. So skew T4, let's go up near Little Rissington at 2 o'clock, and with a temperature of, that's actually quite, let's find another one. Let's go at Shobden. Okay. 12 degrees, giving convection up to just short of 5,500 feet. And point forecast for this area. And today, 4-knot climbs with a top of the base of around 4,500 feet above Lasham today. Okay. Let's just see if we can get any more data on why there's an issue in this area here. Let's have a look over developments. It wouldn't surprise me, given how early the cumulus has started, that overdevelopment could come into this. This is showing it quite extensive, spread out potentially. That Top Metier wasn't showing. So I think with that in mind, if you run two forecasts together, somewhere in the middle, probably won't be quite as much spread out as this suggests, but it probably won't be quite as blue as Top Metier suggests either. So a reasonable day, but a day with some challenges, no doubt, and some issues with wind too. Good. Okay, NOTAMs. A few to brief today. Article dropping at Abingdon. Article dropping is at Abingdon today between what's that, 1430 and 1600. That's number 25. Shobden 33, parachuting between 10 and 7 tonight. And then generally looking around, it's the usual NOTAM. Salisbury Plain danger area is active. We do have some extra activations though. The bit on the side here, Bulford is active up to 3,000 feet, so a little bit higher than normally. So bear that in mind if you are going that way. And the rest of it is fairly standard. Other than Bryce Norton's doing their usual parachuting NOTAM. If anybody spots any parachutes over Bryce, then let me know. I'm intrigued to know how often that actually happens at the moment. And gliding at Horton today as well. So aside from that, fairly straightforwards. What isn't straightforward is the operation today. So you've all received an email. So you should have an idea of the operational setup that we're going to use today, those of you that fly private gliders especially. We'll be winching on 3-4, not with my squiggly line, but yeah, winching on 3-4, gridding on 2-7. It's going to be pretty tricky. So if you're not feeling current, today might not be the day for you. There are better days in the week coming up, but yeah, we're going to have a fairly strong wind for the north. So launching off 2-7, left-hand circuits on 3-4 only, really, to land down here. And there'll be a lot of coordination to ensure that we're not winching at the same time as we're aero towing. A bit later today, we're going to aero tow off the perimeter track. I just had a text about Keevil. I'll have a look just to check if there's any information about Keevil. Aero towing will happen off the perimeter track after lunch. When you return, use your radio and we'll work out where you're going to land. We've got a number of jet movements today. We've got 727 going, landing at around 1:30 to 2 o'clock, half 1 to 2 o'clock, apologies, and some King Airs throughout the afternoon as well. So my advice is, if you don't see anything on the runway and you see lots of fire trucks about, land on the grass or plan to land and stop short. But use your radio, ask what's going on. We just want to make sure that you don't have any incursions on anybody else's operation. Tow out routes to get to this launch point. It is going to be quite soft down here. That's why it's club gliders only for winching today. That is a policy that we have in these conditions. We'll be towed down towards the black hangar and then rounds over to this area around here. But we want to try and get as many of you away on the grid as possible. There may be a runway change a bit later if the wind drops off, but for the moment, runway 3-4 in use, grid on 2-7. Please use your radio and keep a very, very good lookout for what's happening on the airfield later this afternoon. Okay, just checking on one more thing. I've had a query about Keevil. I'm just going to have a look just to see if there's any information. And the answer to that is I have no information regarding Keevil. There is no NOTAM published. It is the usual parachuting one, which is there. So there is no information on Keevil today that I have. But as always, NOTAMs are just as much your responsibility as mine. So do check before you fly. See you on the airfield. Bye for now.